couple, wacky trip, go together in time for birth.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast. On Sunday, the 20th of March, 2022, I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
I wasn't ready.
And Robert Kemp.
That might be my favourite intro of all time. But also,
I was also about to comment on what I assume was just the new music that we've not actually. I haven't heard.
Oh yes, this is true. It is season 13.
Ooh, welcome to the new season. 6 seasons and a movie, except way more than that. No movie.
Way more than that. We're still going.
We have movie-length content on our YouTube channel.
True. Maybe our collision software videos constituted Happy Salad the movie.
Yeah, I guess, kind of.
Our version of Indie Game, the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Were you in the middle of drinking or something when you went blur?
No, I was just I overthought what I was about to say.
Oh no.
I was like, oh no, I just need to make a noise now.
Let's make this noise. Perhaps that's the trick. Just don't overthink it. Just make the noise that comes to mind when you're trying to think of something else to say.
That's like a type of therapy, isn't it? Where people just sit in rooms and just like let the noise come out, isn't it? Like
But everyone knows that the answer to if it's a word at least, everyone knows the answer is cheese.
cheese, of course.
Everyone knows.
Or American, if it's an actual answer to a question.
What if you're looking for a word?
Yeah, it's
So,
always
like-
cheese.
It's always cheese.
It's gotta be cheese. I mean, it's the universal test of whether or not your browser is working, right? You type cheese into it.
Is that what you Google to test
Pretty
internet
much,
connectivity? Is cheese?
Yeah. If I see a lovely bit of Swiss, lovely picture of some Swiss cheese come up, then I know I'm good.
Then you know. Then you know you're safe. And you're online.
There's that classic quote from a certain YouTuber that's like, no matter how much you work, no matter how much money you make, you'll never be as famous as cheese.
I mean, is Jesus as famous as cheese? Probably more.
I mean,
I don't know.
there might be some truth to that, right? Because, like, I guess there are certain countries where cheese isn't really a eaten thing.
I don't know. It's like...
Is rice more famous than cheese?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, what is the most famous thing?
It's so famous.
Apart from water, presumably.
Yeah, apart from water, yeah. Is it? Yeah.
Is this like a
Bread.
food tier list?
I mean, bread's in. Speak of Jesus, bread is in all
On the same tier.
Yeah, bread's on the same tier and mentioned in the same breath quite a lot.
It's pretty.
With the whole daily bread thing.
It's quite high up there.
Yeah, no one says, "Give us this day our daily rice," or maybe they do in other religions.
I mean, maybe they do. I mean, you might argue that fish might be a close second. Then
That's true. There's a lot of fish going on in there. But is that just a coincidence in a Christian way because Jesus happened to hang around with fishermen all the time in the Sea of Galilee?
I mean, there's a few fishermen. Yeah.
If he'd been on the plains, on the steppe, maybe it would have been different. Right?
Bread and cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Then maybe cheese would be more famous.
I suppose it would be a bit harder to distribute cow. Like if you just multiplied cows from a basket.
Although if you multiply cows, that'd be a lot more food. You don't turn 2 fish into like 100 fish. You turn 2 cows into 100 cows. You've made a lot more.
That's true. Even more of a miracle.
Keeping a basket of cow might be a bit difficult.
But he's multiplying fish like outside of water, right? So they're immediately like
they're not like
edible.
live fish.
Yeah, they're not like live, or maybe they are, but they die immediately, which is really grim if you think about it. I suppose
They're pre-fished fish, though.
Exactly, pre-fished. Whereas if you multiply cow, that's probably bad.
I mean, the bread is like the way more complicated part of that equation, right? Though, because it's like fish is just like technically a singular thing, whereas bread is like this mash of like several different elements.
Like what? You saying a fish?
Do you think that's
bread is
easier?
less complicated than a fish?
Do you think that's easier for if God and if Jesus is God created like all the animals and stuff, then he already has the blueprint for like
it's like he already knows the design of the fish to just be able to copy it. Whereas bread is like this mashup of like different plants and chemicals and fungus and all whatever. Probably not fungus in that time period. It's probably flatbread.
Oh, you're getting into a Trinitarian argument there dangerously.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's confused. Surely, right now, it's a lot easier. If you're a scientist today, it's probably a lot easier to multiply bread than fishes, whole fishes. Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
You can chemically engineer bread.
Zach's thinking.
Just like, grown meat. So it is like, technically, we're at the stage where you could do that.
I suppose, yeah.
Not easier than bread, still probably.
But lab-grown meat is not like a full cow.
Well, no, but it doesn't have to be, does it? That was the point of the story. Isn't that he made a bunch of live fish to put in people's fish tanks?
It was that he fed the 5,000, right? But would it have been as impressive if he just made a bunch of like, I don't know, gruel or whatever? No, what would be nice? I don't know. What's the simplest thing? Like tomato soup or something. If he just made loads of tomato soup, would that be as impressive as making?
No, I think what we're saying is he hadn't heard that charity advert before. Whereas like if you just taught everyone to fish, it wouldn't be a problem. But instead, he just gave them fish. He did it the wrong way round.
I mean, that's not even true, though, is it? Like, if you teach everyone to fish, it's just going to become super overcrowded, and everyone will have to get boats and shit. It's like, that doesn't actually work.
They'll overfish it, and then no one eats.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like every saying along those lines. There's always the actual real-world consequences problem. Where it's just like, it's good in theory, but not in practice.
Yeah, if everyone's fishing, then they start getting angry with each other, and you end up with Brexit.
If you give a man a cow, he'll eat for quite a bit. If you teach a man to cow,
teach a man to cow, and he won't know what the fuck you're talking about. Did we come up with that?
I want to say it might be an Izzard thing.
Oh, really?
I'm not 100% certain.
Probably. It does sound a bit like Izzard, yeah. I'd be surprised if we came up with that. That would be a bit too good.
I love it, though. I love it. I'll tell you what I don't love, though.
Same way.
The plague.
Oh, the plague.
One of us had to get
by
it.
The plague.
One of us had to.
Hey, I got it before you.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to get it.
Well, two of us have to get it.
Yeah, it's inevitable, but
it's inevitable.
I am surprised that I was the last one, really. I mean, I don't go out much, but this family is exposed to a charity shop on the regular, which is like probably the second or third most likely place you're going to get virus transmission.
And not even the plague
after
child.
Schools and hospitals.
Not even the plague child gave you the actual plague.
No.
I mean, by the actual plague, I don't mean the plague. I mean
no.
The current plague.
What we euphemistically call the plague. That's not the actual plague.
I should have introduced myself as like Emperor Covidius XIX or something, just to make it sound better. Hi, I'm Covidius. Anyway, it kind of sucked. It wasn't as
Constantine. Which emperor had the plague? Roman emperor, I mean.
All of them. They probably all had syphilis.
Was it Constantine? I can't remember. Justinian. Get it right, Dan. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the actual plague.
Yeah, that was the actual plague.
The plaguey plague, as it's known in medical circles.
So, how did you do with the not plague?
Great.
Yeah.
No, it kind of sucked. It's the most ill I've been for a while. Like,
oh right.
Like Friday was. I mean, for a long time actually thinking about it. It's like I normally get little bits here and there. I'm not, but I'm generally pretty good with not getting totally and utterly messed up ill. Whereas like when the first day I got it, I was like, yeah, I was in bed. I slept it off, and then as it turned out, for quite a few days later, I was quite physically weak to the point where one morning I brushed my teeth and then said to myself, "That was effort.
I need to go back to bed." Yeah.
I mean, it was still good enough that we attempted to make. It was still well enough that we attempted to make a video. But
yeah, I mean,
Which failed for other reasons.
Yeah, failed for technical
related to
reasons,
plague.
not plague reasons. So that's okay.
oh no, what went wrong?
The recording. That was my problem, rather than a Rob problem.
But anywho, I'm on the way out. In theory, this is the last day of I'm contagious. If you believe the 10 days from symptoms thing. But also, I am still, I didn't test myself this morning, but the wife tested herself this morning because we both got it. And she's like the faintest possible line on the test, but it's still there, which technically means positive.
Yeah, fair.
So hooray for technology and remote podcasting.
Yes, it is.
Which we've done plenty, even without plague.
Absolutely.
We're well experienced in the theory of this.
The theory of plague. We were practiced before, years before COVID was even a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It made zero effect. In fact, the only thing that the COVID has done for Happy Salad is meant that I appear on videos.
This is true, which is a net positive.
Probably.
Not a test positive, but a net positive. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened. And it's continuing to happen. I'm going to have a nasty cough for a while yet, because I always had... That's the thing with me. It's like I keep coughs. It's like when I get them, they linger.
You don't keep them up the same way as Zach does.
Oh, no. Zach just has a perma cough. Yeah.
It's like... Is this a cough that I kept? Like, does this cough actually have an origin?
Did it
that isn't
somewhere?
That is like an illness at some point, or is this just some physical thing?
It just lives in you now.
Who knows?
It's got to be physical of some kind, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to assume so at this point.
I mean, it's not like you smoked or anything like that, but maybe it's just dust. Maybe it's just well dusty. Or you've got an asbestos roof.
Yeah, maybe it's something like that that's quite subtle, where it's like I've been exposed to something at some point, and then it's just messed up.
I'll tell you what will test your lungs out. You go for a bit of a run and then see how much stuff you cough up.
Lovely.
Well, apparently what's going to test my lungs out is getting the plague at some point.
I mean, by the time you get it, it will evolve to have been so infectious and so mild that you won't even notice it. I think.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
It will just be a slight addendum to your additional cough.
Well, as I've said previously about my cough, it's like I can tell when I'm getting ill because it actually starts to be it starts to be a hurting cough rather than a neutral cough.
Mm.
I only get sore throats when I'm actually ill. The cough, other than that, is perfectly fine.
It's just there to be loud and surprise us on podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's your trademark. I mean, you need a way of incorporating it into a Bruce Forsyth style intro. So it happens every time.
I mean, it happens all the time. It's just most of the time it's muted or coughed away from the mic.
Nice to see you. That's what coughs sound like now. They sound like bleh. I watched some interesting TV this week.
What was that?
Have you seen a little thing called Book of Boba Fett?
Yes.
I haven't seen all of it. I'm 4 episodes in.
Oh, have you got to the one where it's not really an episode of Boba Fett?
Well, they keep teasing it.
Oh, okay.
If you know what I mean. They keep playing that little sting from Mando. So you know it's coming.
Right, okay. So it must be the 5th episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But, boy, that scooter chase, huh?
Oh my god.
Is that possibly the worst thing Star Wars has ever done?
So terrible. Oh my god.
I mean, I might be putting it up there above the Christmas special in terms of terrible moments of Star Wars.
It was truly terrible. But I mean, the existence of the scooters in the first place is bad enough.
Okay, that is pretty weird, and it's like that whole group, like the mods and stuff,
The
seems
fact
so
that they're called
against.
the mods because they do body modification, but they also have mod scooters from
Yeah.
like the British 1960s.
Yeah,
With complete with the mirrors, and they're on Tatooine. None of it. And the girl looks like she's comes out of a Hot Topic or something.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like Avril Lavigne or
a
something.
bit too actual punk rock.
Yeah,
in
it's
your
like,
sci-fi, it's really strange.
it's really, really off tonally. Like, it's fine to have those elements in Star Wars, but not on doesn't fit on Tatooine with Boba Fett.
No,
Like, that would be fine in, like, they already did that kind of in Episode 2 on Coruscant, right? They had that bar or whatever with people like in weird costumes and stuff. It's like that kind of punk aesthetic probably worked better on Coruscant or some other planet like that. Rather
I mean,
than Tatooine.
kinda, but I don't really like. I don't think Star Wars shouldn't crib from Earth. Is all I'm saying. It's like it just shouldn't be a thing. It's like I know you
better if they didn't. I mean, obviously they do, but
I know you have to get your influences somewhere, but this one is just so overt and pretty just wrong. It just doesn't fit.
Just totally wrong. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
I mean, arguably the stupid like 60s diner from episode 2.
Yeah. 50s.
Theoretically worse.
Yeah.
Because it's just
well,
like
it was the same. It was terrible.
Well, yeah, I guess, but like it wasn't because in episode 2 it wasn't just like the style. It was like the whole like. It was representing the whole time period.
Yeah, the layout and thing of it as well. It was the classic long bar with like the booth next to the window. It's like it's almost 1-to-1, isn't it? And it's just too close.
Well, the worst is like the droid waitress lady with the it's like a 50s waitress, but a droid.
It's just too close. It's like if you go too close to Earth things, then stuff doesn't work in Star Wars like at all. It's like you can get away with it in Star Trek probably. Because, it has Earth.
But they do it less, weirdly.
Yeah. It's so strange.
And obviously you should never have a wheeled vehicle on Tatooine. What are you doing?
Yeah. Or just generally wheeled vehicles. The rule in Star Wars is if you're going to have wheels, they have to be gigantic, right?
Yeah.
Wait, what had a wheel? Because all these scooters floated and the speeder they were chasing floated. Or did nothing have wheels, and you're just saying that's a rule?
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's like at least they didn't have wheels on the scooters because
they've got to be tiny wheels on the bottom of R2's legs,
Yeah, those are fine. You can't see them.
he could just hover. You don't actually know.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't hover.
I guess he leaves tracks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, tracks are fine. Actual tracked like the Sandcrawler, that's fine.
Yeah.
With the wheels inside, but you can't have wheels, just normal wheels in Star Wars. That's the rules.
Because apparently the tech is just easier to make something hover than wheel.
Mysteriously.
And yet still not that easy. Because you still have battle droids with legs. And ATSTs with legs. And all other things with legs.
I guess the droidicas kind of turn into a big wheel. If you consider a ball a big wheel.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, I don't know. It doesn't seem to have all that much agency, in his own story. In fact, his sidekick lady seems to do a lot more and be a lot more badass than him, which is...
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, Boba himself seems like... I mean, it's probably accurate. He's a bit over the hill, right?
I suppose.
In many ways. And it's like they do say that, the whole tribal plot line lasted potentially years, I think he said at one point.
Oh, really?
So it's... So yeah, it could be that some time has passed and he's lost his edge, but yeah, he really doesn't seem like the skilled, feared person he should be in any way in this thing.
No. It's weird. You'll have to watch the next one because it... Like I say, it goes back into Mandalorian mode. But it's really weird that I think it's okay to have B tier series and A-tier
Sure,
series, right?
yeah.
But the problem seems to be that they brought that A-tier stuff into the middle of the B-tier one, so that you have to watch you have to watch Boba Fett basically to continue watching.
I assume it wasn't intended to be a B-tier series, but it just ended up that way.
Have to see if, because B-tier can be fine.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm still enjoying it. I kind of
like
I know it
was B tier, and that was like
right. I've still not seen that, but
it's I wouldn't bother because it's like Christmas themed. So
maybe I'll watch it on my own time. It seems like a bit of an effort to get to watch the Marvel series with me at the moment. But
well, the next one coming out next week or whatever is Moon Knight, right?
Yeah, I like the look of this.
And it's like set in London, and he's got a stupid English accent for one of his. He seems to have a split personality or something. So that looks dumb.
Yeah,
I can't tell if that's supposed to be A tier or B tier, because obviously, WandaVision was A tier in this tier system.
Sure,
right?
And it was like full on world building and part of the whole thing.
And the Winter Soldier one was B tier.
Well, kinda. It's still,
but it was good. It was fine.
It was, yeah. I think it was intended A, if you see what I mean. I think Winter Soldier was intended A. It's because it has a little bit of worldy stuff in there and pushes things forwards a little bit, but not a huge amount.
So I think Loki was intended A, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, So see.
Yeah, I think Moon Knight's going to be a bit of an experiment as to whether they factor it in, like, into the big picture, because it is actually like Moon Knight's at least a Disney thing, as opposed to like they didn't farm it off to anyone.
Yeah,
like they have done. If you want to talk about like B or C tier, even like shows, you're thinking like the Jessica Jones or the
Marvel ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what am I saying? Netflix Marvel. Yeah.
I suppose Jessica Jones was Netflix Marvel, wasn't it? Or the remake of Daredevil, or Luke Cage. But then if you want to go real far back, I suppose we're talking like Agent Carter, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the ones that really were supposed to be important and then ended up not being at all, which was real.
Yeah, the Netflix Marvel series ended up being disconnected completely from the films quite quickly, and then notionally they were saying continuity, but now what they're doing with the full-blown Disney ones is they're occasionally bringing in elements of it, right? They brought in, what's his name from the it's the same actor playing who am I thinking of, the big Spider-Man gangster guy, the giant guy. He's the baddie in the animated Spider-Verse film. Fisk, right? What's his name? Man, yeah, I know you mean the not penguin guy. The not penguin who's like huge. Whatever.
Yeah, well, I can't remember his name. That's annoying. Yeah,
screaming at us.
Yeah.
But they put him in that he appears at the end of spoilers, I guess, except not really. He doesn't, but he appears at the end of Hawkeye.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. What happens to him, I'm not sure. I guess we'll see.
It's interesting that they're factoring in Spider-Man-y things into non-Spider-Man-y.
Yeah,
stuff.
Well, I guess he was the baddie in Daredevil, right?
Oh, was he? Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. As in the Netflix series.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting, that they're pulling in Fisk into non-Spider-Man-y stuff.
Kingpin.
Kingpin, yeah, there we go.
That's an obvious name, isn't it? Yeah.
So I watched a bit of that. I've also watched the first episode of Picard Season 2.
Oh, no.
Android Picard travels through time, as it shall now be known.
Oh, my God. I saw, because I watched the Red Letter Media, and I saw that freaking Guidance in a bar called with the address 10 on a street called like Forward Street or something. How stupid is that?
It's yep, all of that is true. And they drink brandy.
Oh.
It's strikes me as pretty dumb, but in the same breath, the first season was kind of was definitely dumb, but actually quite watchable. So like I might be in again.
Okay.
God damn it. And watching a lot of rugby, of course.
Oh, what's going on?
Well, he was Six Nations, you know.
I never know when this is happening.
Some
Happens every year.
some mighty interesting matches this year. The first time Italy's won a Six Nation matches in 36 games. It's just saying something.
Whoa.
And they beat Wales. Ha ha ha. Sucks to be Wales.
Right now it does.
Oh yeah, definitely right now it does. In fairness, the French run, so it's not a great year for anyone.
When the French win.
The French won it, yeah. They didn't just win it, they grand slammed it.
Oh, what, they won every game?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The French.
Zoot.
Zoot blimey, as we were saying the other day.
Zoot blimey.
Zoot blimey. That's my non-gaming chat for the week. Anyone else got any non-gaming chat that's not Plague or TV related? Or maybe is?
I don't think. I've just been watching ancient TV, just watching Sopranos again and it's so old now. It's like from 2001 or something, the episodes I'm watching. It's like a completely different world.
You guys ever played squash?
No.
Squash is fun.
I tried like one time.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, squash is fun. I did that. Because technically I suppose I was on holiday for a bit.
Yeah.
Like at Centre Parks before I got ill, but like the ill has just wiped that from my memory. But I played squash a couple of times. Squash is cool. It's like, how do you make like a racket game more interesting? You put walls in it.
Add balls.
It's not. I mean, clearly that means that Eaton Fives is the superior game. They have additional walls.
There's not many places you could actually play Eaton Fives.
No,
you're quite. It was quite random that Ipswich School wanted to be seen as posh, I guess. So they put an Eaton Fives court in.
They have 3 of them.
Whose idea that was? Really? I mean, how many Fives courts are there even in the country or in the world?
Many. I think it's actually weirdly. I think I looked this up relatively recently. I think it's got a strange following in like Africa or something now.
Oh right, I'll bet.
Like it's starting to take off.
So, but squash slightly more popular than Eaton Fives.
Slightly less injury prone, I imagine.
The only thing I ever think about squash was always like the physics of the ball and how it heats up and stuff like that.
Oh, it's weird. Yeah. You get different grades of ball for how bouncy a session you want, whatever that ends up meaning. It's like, surely like least bouncy balls are the worst in squash because you just hit them at the wall and they stop.
You think so, yeah. Or maybe you have to hit them harder to get them to bounce back.
I mean, that's probably true too, but anyway, that was quite fun. I played that one day while I was physically capable, and then I played it on another day where my body had decided everything hurt, and that was quite entertaining.
You played it once, Zach?
I think so, maybe. Because, Stowmarket High School had access to the sports centre that had squash courts.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Which was weird. I just don't think they ever, I don't think the school ever used that much. They were much more badminton oriented as their indoor sport of choice.
Badminton seemed to be the thing that was what I played. And I'm sure my dad used to play it like after work at that badminton at that sports centre.
Oh, really?
Leisure centre. Yeah, at some point. So it seemed to be the thing there. Because I'm sure we had tennis courts there, but I never had a PE lesson when we played tennis.
I think I may have done, because I think the trouble with the tennis courts there was only one.
Right.
And because the other things out the back there were like hockey pitches. The stupid AstroTurf.
Yeah, or 5-a-side or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I think the tennis court might also have been a 5-a-side, which is why it was often not a tennis court.
Right.
because they just had they had like unfoldable goals or whatever at each end.
Right, yeah, because Ipswich School had some tennis courts, but actually they were the hockey. They were like AstroTurf hockey pitch, yeah.
Right.
But like the worst kind of AstroTurf. You know that AstroTurf that's like the hardest plastic with gravel in it for some reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just the
The
worst.
classic old school AstroTurf.
Just the worst.
What is the like ground or pitch like for the hockey? Because we had proper hockey pitches, not I can't remember where they were. It was a school. They were like by the boarding.
Yeah, they were at the
or
boarding
whatever.
house.
Yeah, but what is that surface?
I don't know. That's what I mean. That's the thing I was talking about. The sort of like
Oh.
ridiculously scrapey, like
Yeah.
will do your knees in just by looking at it.
Was that what it was? I remember a ground surface that wasn't like plasticky. It wasn't grass-like in any way. It was just sort of, I don't know, like not like a clay one, like for a clay tennis court, but it was like reddish ground.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, it looks sort of like it's like rubber, right? It's rubber, but embedded in like in like almost like it's melted together into a surface.
I think that's right. Yeah, I can't remember.
It looks like pavement, but it's actually relatively soft.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what you mean? A little bit like a track, like an
like a
track.
running track, but
Yeah.
like
like a running
slightly
track.
softer than that, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that wasn't that pitch that you're thinking of.
I think the only times
possibly somewhere else.
I think the only times I ever played hockey were on AstroTurf with sand AstroTurf, which is just nearly as bad as gravel.
Yeah,
It's so
really
bad.
bad.
It's so bad. Man, hockey sucks. Like, it's fun to watch when the Olympics are on and stuff, but like, it sucks. It does your back in so bad.
Yeah, I just remember being bent over all the time.
And it's like, it's one of those classic sports where like, if you try and play it with the like real rules, it's fucking impossible. Because you've got like the back stick and like you're only allowed to make contact with the ball in certain ways, and it's such a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But like if you just want to hit a ball around,
the when and
kind of entertaining.
The when and wheres you're allowed to flick it up are quite precise.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a complex thing.
And like tackling is such a very precise thing as well, because you're not allowed to hit each other's sticks or whatever. Or
accidentally kick it.
Yeah.
Whether you meant to or not, whether you just happened to be there as the ball came your way, it's like, no, it hit your foot, foul. I suppose it's kind of true of a lot of sports, right? Like, trying to watch the rugby now can sometimes be pretty complicated, where you're trying to see, okay, what the hell was that penalty for?
Yeah.
I mean, it's nearly as bad as waiting for the NFL flags. But it's not quite as dramatic as an NFL flag. I still love that. Just throw a flag at it. Flagrant foul. Sports. Hey, F1's back this weekend. We should watch that at some point.
It begins again.
It begins.
Well, it doesn't take long, does it?
No, it really doesn't at the moment. Their off season isn't very long, which is great.
Yeah. Then new cars this year, or
new cars, yeah, new hybrids.
Well, for a certain definition of new, as always.
Yeah, well, they've changed the rules on what the engines are and how the hybrid system works. Can't remember the details off the top of my head, but it basically means these cars are quite different performance-wise compared to the previous year. And so the theory is that actually this year it's going to be much closer contest because none of the teams have had experience. So they've all had to just wrestle something together.
Oh, interesting.
Of course, that probably means Mercedes are going to win because they have the most money. But
yeah,
so they will have wrestled it better. But that's the theory anyway. Could be an interesting one. Don't spoil me, bro. Someone's going to tweet me now. Except they won't because they don't know my Twitter. So ha.
You'll never find us.
I'm sure I'm very easy to find.
Tweet at Happy Salad. I'm
Oh, yeah. Actually, I think we're at Saladcast.
At Saladcast, yeah.
Yeah.
Get it right. Yeah, you've probably seen that on every video you've edited ever. But yeah, probably remember it.
I sort of don't look at the words anymore. I look at how the words form.
Indeed. Right, what's going on in gaming? That's what I want to know.
Games. All right.
Not much.
Pretty quiet. Yeah, pretty quiet news-wise.
Start of the year.
Yeah, we're still waiting for. I mean, was it Microsoft and Nintendo still haven't done anything like big scale? Yeah, I suppose Nintendo did a thing, didn't they?
Yeah,
they did
that one thing.
Yeah, so it's just Microsoft holding back at the moment. But then Microsoft don't really do that many state of plays or like events. Really, they kind of just bundle everything up for E3 most of the time. So we got another state of play, and then we got another state of play. So let's have a talk about that. Have you ever wondered whether you need to check the weather for, I don't know, whether dinosaurs are going to rain from the sky? Because that's what Exoprimal wants you to do. So, I mean...
So what is the dino weather?
This trailer literally starts with a dinosaur forecast. They're talking about whether there will be dinos today. And it's like, okay... So Capcom are making a brand new IP, which is something, doesn't happen all that often, I suppose. And what they're making is, it's a 4-player sort of co-op, sort of PvP shooter where you're in somewhat generic exosuits fighting dinosaurs that rain from the sky. And it's like, had you cut out the first half of what I just described, might have been kind of interesting. Like, that's probably the weirdest shot of this whole trailer is just the literal rain of hundreds of dinosaurs coming out of a weird black hole thing in the sky. They just fall. They just fall skyscraper-like distance. It's like tumbling off the terrain. And it's like, okay, this is madness. And then you read what it is, and it's like this. It kind of sounds bad. It's like they've described it as like the like two teams of 5-on-5, a sort of 5-on-5 competitive shooter. Except it's not really competitive. You're kind of you're fighting the dinosaurs, and they make it sound like it's a bit of a competitive race. Like, so each team is working cooperatively to take down the objective faster than the other team, and it's like you didn't need that detail. Just make a fun co-op shooter against dinosaurs. That might have been enough. This extra weird wrinkle doesn't sound interesting at all. If anything, it probably makes it more annoying, where you're like going through it and you're being like, "Yeah, we've nearly done," and then the round ends because your opponent's won. What the hell?
Concept.
It's really strange. It's a long way off, though. They said 2023, so who knows what it will change into.
Turn out to be, yeah.
But hey, new IP from Capcom doesn't happen every day. We got to see some more story-y stuff about Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah.
I think that game might be good. Like, it's hard to tell. I still think it's really hard to tell. Like, it's got
hard to tell.
It's got such a great style, but whenever you see the game in action, it looks odd. Like I don't know. It seems like you're standing still most of the time, and it's about picking targets and picking what move you do more than being a proper first-person shooter, if that makes sense. And it's like, maybe that's fine. Like, I kind of appreciate that it looks different, but I can't really get a feel for what this is. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah, I can't tell one way or the other, really.
It's very intriguing, though. And it's also important to the league. the Fantasy Critic League. Where we all seem to be... I think we're all sort of doing it about the same level at the moment. There's no clear winning and losing at the moment. I think Zach's games are still coming later in the league. So
that's true. You stuck in there with that tunic I saw today.
Yep, I snuck that in. That's done all right.
God damn it. That was a good one.
Well, that wasn't today. That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, fair.
Tunic came out. Well, it wasn't 2 weeks ago. It was like a week.
No,
and
I
a bit.
meant you added it to your
Oh,
list.
yeah.
Okay, you knew what was coming. Very clever.
Stuck it in.
It was the same time as he put Pokemon on there, which I debated bidding on, but I was like, I don't think it's going to be worth it considering I only have 3 slots left.
I mean, that's a very good point. Is the Pokemon well? I mean, it'll probably review just the same as any other Pokemon
Yeah, it'll probably
game.
be like 80. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like everything on our list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no. Oh well, apart from Elden Ring, that's the clear winner for the year.
Yeah, probably.
We got to see a little more Forspoken. I don't think there was anything particularly interesting in this trailer other than a confirmed date of October 11th this year. So look forward to another Square Enix game. We'll be talking about them a lot this year.
Seems that way.
Gundam are making what seems to be a PvP shooter. I mean, I've seen a lot on Twitter of people going kind of crazy for this, but it's like, I guess those are Gundam people. Like, as a game, it looked kind of dreary and like not vibrant enough to even be Gundam, or at least my outsider looking in perspective of Gundam. But what do I know? They're doing that. I'll skip over a few things, but we got to see Trek to Yomi again, which I like visually. I think looks rad. Like it's just oozing like old school Kurosawa vibes. Like it's just, it's chef's kiss. Like in terms of aping the style, it looks like it's basically a 2D hack and slash at its core. But presumably it's got some. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I would assume it looks like it's got like proper like samurai style, like one hit and you're dead kind of stuff. So presumably quite technical, or you've got to worry about your execution. The only thing, and I assume, I don't know the names they said because this was like introducing the voice cast, and like they made it seem like this was like big names in I guess Japanese cinema. So I didn't really know who those were, but the only problem was that when they were introducing them, it's like it kind of highlighted the fact that facial animation is clearly not their studio's strength.
Oh,
so it's like you've got the voice actors, but like okay, these cutscenes are losing something because the lip sync's not quite there and stuff like that, and but maybe they'll work on that. Anyway, that's that. Oh, I say maybe they'll work on that, but that's really soon. That's like sometime in spring this year. But it looks cool. Keep my eye on that one. And then we rounded it off with a couple more Square Enix games. These are kind of strange to me because Square's putting out all kinds of... Square seem to be like putting out a lot of games at the moment, and most of them are bad. So Babylon's Fall came out to almost universal hate. Stranger of Paradise, which is that Final Fantasy character actor game, like based on FF1, I think, or like a prequel to FF1. It's like, that's not doing too badly, I think, in terms of reviews and things like that, but it is described as kind of weird. And they literally just put out Triangle Strategy as well. So they introduced this, which is... Okay, let me rein this in a little bit, because this is a weird one. So it's called the Dio Field Chronicle, which is, okay, a terrible name, and B, another strategy game out relatively soon this year. When I say strategy, it looks tacticsy, I suppose. That's the way to describe Triangle Strategy and those sorts of games. It's tacticsy. But it's being pitched as more in the vein of a Fire Emblem-y type thing. But, oh my god, if you want a trailer that does that whole Japanese random bits of poignant voiceover, this is the trailer you've got to watch, and probably put the subtitles on, because it makes no sense. No sense at all. Like, the intro is people just sort of it's almost like 5 lines in a row of people going, yes. Like, yes, I suppose that's true. And then someone's name, and then like it's just nonsense. You cannot glean anything from this trailer. Like it's just random phrases stitched together.
Oh dear.
Actually, I know. I say that's a lie. They do have a bit where they go into a little bit about like, oh, it's about these factions that are warring, and actually, the story is really about this third country that have stayed out of it until now. They do explain that much, but like every other line in that trailer is just like nonsense Japanese. I don't know why they do this. Is like, does that work? I mean, I guess it must.
Or do people just not care about, or they want it, the flavor of it, or something? And they
is it in Japanese? Is it more of a tone that people are listening for, not actually any semblance of plot or anything at all? It's really odd because we've spoke about this before. Like this style of trailer, it's like it's not uncommon.
Apparently, yeah. Is this just a direct English like translation of a Japanese of a trailer meant to appeal to a Japanese audience or something?
I mean, maybe, and maybe the translation doesn't work if you take the same clips.
Mm.
I mean, I guess that's possible. Anywho, it's yet another Square Enix game coming out this year. Oof, there's going to be a few of them. And then they introduced Valkyrie Elysium, which is apparently like a follow-on from the Valkyrie series of Square games, which I think are quite like go back to the PS1 sort of era of them. I don't really have a familiarity with them particularly, but people are sort of going, oh, hey, they actually thought of Valkyrie, hooray. And then when you actually see it, it's like, it's another character action game, and not a particularly good-looking one, if you ask me, at that. It's
pumping them out here.
Yeah. I don't think they put a date on this, but it's another one. It's just I don't know. Square seem like they're in a weird place at the moment. They're pumping out all these like what seem like shovelware-ish. And I would not probably like that's probably a bit harsh, but like these poop tier games. Actually,
don't call them shovelware. Call them poop tier.
I don't know. Clearly not top tier.
Don't want to be too harsh.
Yeah. Don't want to be too harsh. Okay, my Alexa is now deciding to play something. I can't. Okay.
It's the poop tier music.
Alexa, stop.
Poop tier theme song.
Brilliant. I think that was Cheerleader. Can't remember who by, but yeah. It's a good thing we didn't let that play for more than 30 seconds and have to pay a royalty. Oh man. Anyway, Square. And they're also like classically still unhappy with how any of their games are performing, even the AAAs. Like they apparently said that Guardians of the Galaxy game has done badly for them as well. And it's like,
really?
come on.
Maybe that's why they're making so many, because they realise quantity might do.
Yeah, maybe in terms of the bottom line, this actually just works out for them.
But they'll still complain about it not making enough money.
Yeah, probably.
It is interesting doing this league where like everything gets 75. It's like maybe you might as well just make loads of games.
It's really strange, isn't it? It's like, the review landscape doesn't seem nearly as like up and down as I was expecting, like given the sentiment surrounding some of this stuff.
Yeah.
What we need is like you need to be able to switch, instead of it using OpenCritic, you need to be able to switch it to like Steam reviews.
Oh god.
Or just like the user reviews section of like OpenCritic and Metacritic instead of the critic reviews, or like both, or something, like some combination.
Man.
Sort of like Eurovision, where you have like the public vote and the expert vote. Or whatever.
Yeah, that might make the swings a bit more wild,
violent.
Yeah.
And also, there's that whole thing about Chocobo GP being, possibly an okay game with a full price tag, and then full of microtransactions.
Yep.
As if it was a free-to-play game. And it's like, come on, Square, sort yourselves out. You used to be like the zenith of game development, like the point where you were like super highly regarded, and that time is not now.
I think it's been now for quite a while.
No, it really hasn't. It's like, business has changed you. Anyway, that was that.
Business has changed the whole industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was that State of Play. And then we got a whole nother one based on Hogwarts Legacy, which, okay. I mean, my Twitter went kind of mad with people being angry at J.K. Rowling as soon as this thing went out. You know,
yeah, natch. But that's Twitter.
Yeah, there's some current the current thing against Hogwarts Legacy is that apparently J.K. Rowling recently said that by buying Harry Potter and Wizarding World related stuff, you were supporting her. Like, she specifically sort of said, like, "Hey, this is what this means," and it's like, to which everyone was like, "No, we like Wizarding World, we just don't like you."
Yeah,
and so it's created a slightly awkward position again.
Is there a thing in the character? I didn't watch the thing. Is there a thing in the character generator? Can you be like trans if you want?
That would be a stealth diss from the developer.
Well, exactly.
That'd be so good.
Well, everything's a stealth diss. Like Emma Watson
obviously.
is doing not stealth disses at the moment, let alone developers of this game.
I mean, there wasn't anything obvious there.
Okay.
You could clearly make a dude or a dudette, and they probably want to downplay everything else. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying the Wizarding World is an overtly sexual playground.
I mean, the thing that I want to know how they're going to deal with is like, well, presumably they just won't, but like they think they're being clever by setting it like in the 19th century, like before all the other characters exist, right? But still having Hogwarts, because the theory goes that like, because it's all magic or whatever, that like it would be roughly the same in the 19th century, which is probably true. But you would also think that it would mirror to somewhat in the same way that the Wizard Society mirrors actual society in the books, that like that society would be more racist in the 19th century. Like all the mudblood stuff or whatever is, prejudice is like still there in like the books, which are set in like, I guess technically they're set in like
early 2000s
or something. Earlier. I think they're set in the 90s or something. But like, you'd think that mudblood prejudice would be terrible in the Victorian Hogwarts, right? And what other, and like the stuff around, there's all the stuff around where the house, I can't remember what they're called because they're literally
the house
slaves.
elves.
The house elves, the literal slaves. Then there's people fighting for their rights in the 90s, but like surely in Victorian times, no one would give a shit about the house elves.
No,
right?
probably not. That's probably just not a thing they need to address if it's not if no one's fighting.
Maybe.
Like,
I guess, but I just think I don't know. There's some dodgy stuff just in Harry Potter in general, but then if you turn the clock back 100 years, then maybe you'd think it would be worse. But anyway.
They didn't really.
Should have gone into the future instead.
Space
wizards.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did.
Space wizards would be awesome.
Because I don't think they covered any of that when they did Fantastic Beasts either, right? Which is set earlier,
right?
World War II.
Yeah,
it's all its problems.
Yeah,
with the whole problem of like they don't want to stop the Holocaust or something like that, or the baddie's plan is to stop the Holocaust, and it's like, is he so bad? Like, I don't know. But he's played by Johnny Depp, and he's a bad guy apparently. Is it Johnny Depp?
It is Johnny Depp, yeah.
Yeah. And they had to replace him.
Although that's sort of the reveal of the first film. Because it's...
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, it's a spoiler. It's a spoiler.
That it's played by Johnny Depp?
Well,
I see.
Because he's not...
the bad guy.
You don't know who the bad guy is in the first film.
Right.
And he's actually played by someone else for most of it.
But now he really is played by someone else, right? Because they can't.
They're not hiring Johnny Depp. Yeah, which makes it even weirder. But actually, it might fit just fine.
Yeah, I mean, Dumbledore changed actor 3 times so far.
Oh, really? A third time? I thought he.
Well, I just mean twice, but in the films, and now he's played by someone. The younger Dumbledore is played by someone else, right?
I didn't realize there was a third Dumbledore in the main films. Was there only?
What?
I thought there was 2.
It was Richard Harris, right? And
then died, and then Gambon,
and now it's played by, oh man,
What, someone else is playing young Dumbledore, or is
Yeah.
old Dumbledore played by someone else now? Or
Young Dumbledore.
oh, okay,
He's
that's
played
fine.
by Jude
Yeah.
Law. Jude Law, who's good, obviously.
That makes
He's a
sense.
good actor. Yeah.
That makes sense. I can get behind that.
Yeah. Anyway, point being, I don't know. Hogwarts Legacy.
I mean,
it's a good idea.
Okay, and I don't particularly think, even though this was a deep dive into the game, I'm not 100% sure. As with any of these things, really, it doesn't necessarily give you a feel for what the actual flow of the game really is.
No.
Because, like, it seems like there's a relative, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I want to say it like they were presenting it as if it would fall somewhere between just an open world game, like another open world game, and maybe a Persona game where you're having to balance your actual school life against exploring and doing stuff around Hogwarts. But I'm not really sure that that's how that will play out. Probably
that
not.
would make sense, right? Or maybe like Bully.
Yeah. But I'm not 100% certain that's how that will actually play. Because presumably they'll just give you like they'll say it's like the time between lessons, but actually that's just like, oh, you can go trigger the lesson when you want, kind of thing.
Right, you don't have to listen for the bell.
Yeah.
Like in a school, and then have to be there or get told off.
Or like in the way that Persona actually limits the amount of time you can spend in dungeons between days and things like that.
Right, yeah.
I don't think it'll be anything like that. I just don't. I mean, it looks very clearly well made, and they've put the effort in to definitely make it look like the films, I guess is the way to describe that. Like the way the effects work, the way certain things like that. I'm sure there's some, what do they call it, apparate, is it, where they just sort of disappear and things move around. Like that looked pretty accurate to how the films do that effect. And
apparate. I thought that there was a whole stupid law thing where you can't apparate in Hogwarts, in the grounds of
the people aren't doing it. It's like there were pots, I think, that do it a couple of times, and that effect looked pretty good. But then you see the combat, and it looks weirdly static. It's like you're not moving. A bit like imagine if Ghostwire was third person. Actually, is how I'm sort of feel about it. Like your guy isn't moving around very much, but maybe it's about picking targets and choosing the spells you do, or maybe this was just how this particular thing was presented to perhaps make it more readable.
Possibly.
Where everyone took the piss out of the time when the EA games started becoming like a Gears of War cover shooter with spells.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Gears of Potter.
I mean, that did end up being how it got depicted in the films. Though,
yeah, kind of.
At certain points.
Yeah, most fights were hide behind something, pop a shot,
Yeah.
hide back, weren't they?
And the spells they ended up using would just like cause a bang, like a gunshot, basically.
Well, yeah, didn't everyone just use Crucio the entire time and just be like these are death lasers? Like,
yeah. I don't know.
it has,
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's got promise, but
yeah.
It's hard to come away from this thing being like, well, this is the game I've been waiting for. It's like not that I'm a huge Potter fan or anything like that, but even if I was a Potter fan, I'm not 100% sure I'd be coming away from that trailer going, this is the game I've been waiting for.
I mean, it's in theory the game that a lot of people have been waiting for, but it's a weird time for Harry Potter and and J.K. Rowling and all of that, and it still looks kind of stilted, like in the cutscenes or whatever, like the way that people talk doesn't look right. I don't know.
Right. Oh, I mean, I was trying to think who's I'm trying to think which Avalanche is behind this, because it's Avalanche, but there's two different Avalanches, I think, and I can't remember which one this is. Like, would you be surprised if it was the Just Cause Avalanche team? I need to probably look that up. I need to figure out which, because there was an Avalanche that makes Just Cause, and there was an Avalanche that used to work for Disney. And I think
it might be the Disney ones.
Possibly, yeah.
Disney Infinity.
Yeah, that sort of crew.
Oh dear. Not the most obvious pedigree.
Well, they've clearly got funding. I'll give them that much. It looks like a well-funded video game.
Yeah, I mean, the environments look nice and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's obvious, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've got a bad thing to say against the style of how that thing looks. They've kind of nailed that, but...
Meanwhile, I wanted to mention that I'd watched trailers for this Star Trek Resurgence game. Maybe not so great looking graphically, but like it looks like actual Star Trek. Like it seems to be an adventure or RPG, at least Mass Effect style, where you respond to conversation prompts, and it actually seemed like in the spirit of actual Star Trek with diplomatic negotiations between races and it being difficult and you having to make choices and things like that and talk to your crew and all that. I don't know. And it looks like set in the kind of TNG-ish era. I think it sets just after the last TNG film, whichever one that was, Nemesis or whatever.
So is it Mass Star Effect Trek?
Yeah, I think so, but obviously, but probably not full-blown Mass Effect, but at least the talky parts, and it's developed by ex-Telltale people who do the talky bits, right? So if it's the people that did like The Walking Dead,
sure, expect a diamond style narrative, I guess. Yeah. Spread the diamond, thin the diamond kind of narrative.
But this isn't like episodic. I think that it's just one game, unlike those Telltale.
Right, games. But that means they can probably go bigger, right? With how that
exactly,
with how that story plays out.
So I don't know for a general audience, but for a Star Trek fan, it looks like an actual Star Trek game and looks not bad at all. I thought was genuinely surprised. I was this might actually be good.
Do I have to make a politically concerned decision?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be decisions concerned with politics for sure.
Can I accidentally start a war with the Romulans?
Probably. I hope so.
Or
I mean,
is that something I actually have control over? Will the Romulans just be Romulans?
I haven't seen Romulans involved yet, but hopefully they'll be Romulans. I mean, I like the Romulans. They're fun. They're a fun race to interact with.
Okay, if you do end up playing that, start us Top Watch and let's have time to Borg.
But the Borg,
Borg.
So I don't know if that would be as fun. It doesn't seem like it needs to go full Borg, but we'll see. Time to Borg. Okay.
It's kind of the thing that, like, other than they call it the Kelvin? Is it the Kelvin timeline of Star Trek films?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Other than those, it seems like there's a relatively short time to Borg and everything Star Trek related, right?
Which is these days, I suppose.
I mean, if Picard is anything to go by, the time to Borg is right there. Like it's like episode 1.
Yeah, but Picard is the whole character's like wrapped up with the Borg, right? Because of what happened to him. So that's kind of fair enough. But you don't have to do it in every single Star Trek series or related property.
You don't. I just predict it.
Yeah. But who knows? It could be. You could make this style of game involving decisions involving the Borg. That could be interesting. But who knows? As long as it's not like Voyager Elite Force where you're just running around shooting them and then they adapt. And then you get a gun that unadapts them, I guess, because otherwise there's no game, right?
Once you have to unadapt them and then shoot them with a real gun. Like you're just swapping the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know how it actually works.
It's phase modulation.
Yeah, exactly. You get some kind of infinite phase modulator, and it's like, well, now they can't adapt, so you win. Wouldn't it be more cool if it was like a stealth game where you could shoot them a few times, but then it became ineffective?
It'd be cooler if Starfleet worked out that you can just use melee attacks. Melee attacks go through the shielding.
You can just punch them,
just stab them. So
everyone has to learn how to use stupid Klingon battle knives or whatever.
That's how it is in Dune.
That's Dune, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Rip that off.
Anyway,
I don't think have they ever actually said that about the Borg in Star Trek? like melee attacks versus Borg shielding?
Or is it
I mean,
just
obviously
that
they're like they're cybernetics, so they're
strong,
like super
right.
difficult to actually kill.
Well, yeah.
I think the Data can just about punch a Borg drone, right? But the other characters have trouble because Data's really strong.
You need something that can cut through whatever metal they're made of,
Yeah,
which is probably quite difficult.
and I suppose like they also adapt to like physical combat style. So you probably
Right.
use one move and then they can just block
And
it
then
next time.
they know kung fu.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to actually teach the Borg Kung Fu?
I think it's more fun that I like the idea of, I don't know, this is old, but like, because when you beam onto a Borg ship, they don't stop you beaming on there, and then they just ignore you, right? Like,
Well, yeah, because they
until
don't,
you become a threat.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, you're right, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you start shooting those triangle things, those pyramid things in the ceiling, and they start getting annoyed.
It's like, oh, what'd you do that for? Man, we had it just where we liked it as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
ruining the ambiance.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the news mostly.
Yeah, I mean, there's only two more bits. Like, sticking with real game releases, Nintendo aren't putting out Advance Wars given the current global position.
Geopolitical situation.
Yeah, which probably makes sense. It's described as an indefinite delay, but which basically means they haven't got a date because no one knows when this Ukraine thing's going to be somehow finished or in whatever way that is. So yeah, don't take the word indefinite too seriously, I guess is the takeaway there. And also, EA will not be doing EA Play Lives this year. So, no E3 disaster show. Which is,
Well, I mean, presumably the regular E3 disaster show, not the E3 disaster after show.
Well, I think this is the one where they got like, where it's sort of been a sort of badly produced studio, not stage show for the last couple years. I forget who it was that was hosting it last year. They got an ex-wrestler or something to do it, did they? I can't remember his name, but he was all right at it. It's just they gave him a terrible script, Yeah, I don't think they're doing that whole thing. They've described it as something that's probably going to be akin to kind of like the Hogwarts Legacy State of Play, that they'll probably put out longer, deeper looks at things that are coming out and put them out individually rather than having a blowout show. Which, in EA's case is probably makes sense because probably a good third of every EA show is sports games. So it means we can skip those more easily. although you might want to see what kind of nonsense they come up with for whether or not they'll do another story mode for FIFA or what they'll do post-Madden. The post-Madden games. But also just because EA actually don't put out all that much, right? Their shows are normally quite anemic year on year, so maybe it makes sense for them to scale back a bit. We'll get less of those like developer diary type things saying we're working on something, we can't tell you about it, but we're working on something that'll never come out. Hey, Criterion, you like those Burnout games, right? We're working on some all-terrain racing game that never saw the light of day, and now Criterion just help people and aren't Criterion anymore. Lamented. God damn it, EA. That's the news. Unless Zach's got some surprise news. Always got to check. No surprise news.
All right, it's time for what you've been playing.
It is.
What, Zach, what have you been playing this week / last week?
Yes, not much. Mainly I've been doing a lot of grinding in Deep Rock Galactic because they've announced the next season pass is going to start sometime in April, and I was like, I can probably make it to the end of this one, even though
Probably.
it's quite a grind, because I think they didn't balance it very well. And they did say in the announcement for season 2, they're like, we might consider reducing the amount of effort it takes to get through the whole season pass next time.
Oh, okay.
Is that a double quoted might there?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely haven't confirmed anything yet. I don't think they just said they're thinking about it.
I mean, they're damn well better because it's quite extreme.
Yeah, it's quite ridiculous. Because I was just looking, because at this point when I started grinding, I was like, okay, how can I optimize this? Like, what do you have to do this as fast as possible? Because the season pass XP is based on the mission XP, and it's not like 1-to-1. It's like this proportional scale where it's like lower levels of normal XP scales quicker than higher levels of normal XP. So there's massively diminishing returns. So you don't need to worry about like double XP missions. Probably aren't necessary. I mean, that's worth it just for the double XP, but it's not going to get you much more on the season pass XP side.
Right, I see.
Because it scales past like 10,000 regular XP or whatever is where it falls off quite rapidly. So I was like, okay, so don't need to worry about necessarily maximizing XP. So then you're looking at like what missions can you grind fast?
Yeah, the shorter ones, presumably.
Well, yeah, and then like what type of mission? And then of course, if you're doing it in solo, like I'm doing the grind, it's like then you've got a different set of like considerations, because it like really the easiest, well, probably the fastest type of mission, depending slightly on like how the terrain spawns, is like the point extraction, where you just have to collect those blue mineral chunks and shove them into the thing in the middle. Because in single player you have the robot and you can just laser point the thing on the wall and tell it to go get it, so you don't even have to move, basically.
Oh, wow.
You can just stand in the middle of the map and go like, get that, get that, get that, get that. Provided you can see them. That's the one thing that makes that less effective. And then the same for like the egg hunts as well. So you can just go into the middle of the room, providing all the eggs are in the walls around the room, and be like, get all the eggs, thanks.
Sort out your defensive position and then send your bot out.
Yeah. So that can be quite quick. But, less entertaining, obviously, because it's the grind.
Yeah. I mean, I like Deep Rock enough, but I don't think it's varied or enough to warrant how much they expect you to play it.
No.
If you see it, it's just not even close. It's like I think it would. I think you can more easily get away probably with that level of requirement if you're in a competitive shooter potentially, because just by the various nature of those sorts of games, it's like there is more variation per match, right? It's not because humans. Just because humans, because this is PvE and because it's even though everything is procedurally generated well, there is a limit, I think, to its replayability, and forcing you into that feels like the wrong approach to me.
Well, I think the other trouble is because of the way the XP scales, it doesn't really reward you for doing the harder stuff.
Right, yeah.
Like, it doesn't reward you from turning up the difficulty as much as just finishing the mission. So you might as well play it on one of the easier missions difficulties where you can get through it quicker.
And just thrash it out. Yeah, it doesn't... I think the design is wrong on the season pass stuff. That's not to say I think that any part of the actual gameplay is wrong here. It's just this meta layer.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about, like, how I would prefer it to be balanced. Because in reality, like one of the problems with it is on a conceptual level is that like you only get a reward from it like once every 4 missions, which is far too many. Like regardless of how much XP or what the XP converts into season XP,
sure.
It just shouldn't be 4 missions between each one. And
a lot of the items on the script map or whatever are just extra resources. They're not like proper unlocked.
Yeah. There's a lot of extra space that's just filled, which just makes the grind even longer. And who needs extra resources, really? Like,
not hugely, because you're grinding that much, you're probably getting them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other problem with the grind, of course, because, like, at a certain point, if you're going full optimization, you're not even mining the resources. Right. You're just finishing the mission. But yeah, you don't need all that extra filler. It just makes the grind too long.
Mm.
So we'll see what happens in the next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not far away, is it?
No,
sometime next month, they're still saying.
Especially considering that like this next season is going to have 4 more weapons, secondary weapons in it anyway.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it took quite a long time for them to make the 3rd set of primaries, but then this next set of secondaries has come immediately afterwards.
Yeah. Well, they're probably
they're probably working on them all at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Deep Rock, and the same with any PvE things, right? It needs anything adding to it that can add variation, and I don't think necessarily the weapons you choose are the thing that should be varied. You want more things to fight. You want more random weirdness that can happen. You want it's kind of the what do you call it? The roguelike problem, right? Where you want roguelikes to have each run be really quite different from each other. You want it to be wild. You want it to be.
Well, I think that's it's because in other roguelikes, like your weaponry is part of the randomness, whereas in this you have a loadout that you've built and you're taking it into the mission, so the weaponry is no longer part of the random.
No, and that's why you need the world itself and the things you're fighting to be the random. And it's like just when a swarm spawns isn't random enough, right? It's like they're like adding more enemy types or adding more things for you to be doing in the middle of a fight. That's where the joy of random comes from in a game like Deep Rock. And it's yeah. It's like, don't get me wrong, I'll take anything they throw at me. Like it's fine. But I would prefer them to focus on that area of the game.
I mean,
which is probably way more work.
Well, yes. The trouble with having that kind of randomness built against like loadouts is that you can't. There's a certain limit to how much random you can make before it requires specific loadouts, but then you can't require that because then you can't guarantee that the people are going to have the right loadouts for the right situation because they won't know because it's random.
Yeah, to an extent, but I like that is mitigated some amount by the co-op nature of it, right?
Somewhat,
you should have a spread in your team.
But then that's kind of countered by the class system where you kind of want one of each class almost, and then their specific skills are already locked into like certain roles.
To a point.
So yeah, that's what I've mainly been playing, a whole bunch of Rocket League, getting through that, and I think I'm probably going to make it. It'll be fine. And then the next time it should be easier, hopefully.
You just say Rocket League when you meant Deep Rock.
Well, I played that too, I guess.
Okay. All right. It all merges together.
Yeah. Well, in Rocket League, we haven't got to the point of the hardcore grind because it's the start of the season where you're just not worried about it yet.
Yeah, brand new season. The cartoon season, they're calling it, isn't it? Or
it's quite
the animated season, sorry.
Yeah. It's quite weak. They just put a skin on Tokyo, which is like the laziest arena yet.
Yeah, it's another. I mean, that's quite a few seasons in a row where I've not really been feeling their theme. Like even the spacey one, the last one, was like somehow wasn't spacey and cool enough.
No, and this one isn't comic-y enough, really.
Yeah,
there's a couple of things.
They just kind of don't. Okay, I mean, I wonder if they're like playing it a little safe to be like, well, we don't want to put off the audience if they don't want this because then we won't get our season pass money this season. So they so they filter it a little, water it down a little bit, and I'm like, nah, dog, go in. If you're gonna do this, go hard. It's like because I'm sure I'll build a car of some description out of your theme because that's what you do. I might not use your weird VW camper van, but actually you might. You tend to play vans.
Well, it has the Merc hitbox, so it would actually theoretically be the same hitbox as my classic van. But I haven't used that in like ages, really.
Right,
because that was always my casual games van / when me and Rob originally played twos, but then I created a new updated van for that.
Yeah, different van. Fat van.
And you go back to the classic van, and it's like I do, when I have played it more recently, it's always entertaining to see it on the end screen because it's so old school. It's so non-fancy compared to the weird bullshit you can put on cars nowadays. Which
you mean your pizza van?
Yeah, the classic, like...
it's all stock items,
very simple
isn't it?
very simple skins and the original items.
Yeah, but you still come across those like... quote-unquote purists who just play with the octane with nothing on it,
Yes.
Boring people.
But that's for a different reason.
Boring people.
That's because they think it's important to be able to see
and
have a very precise hitbox.
They might not be wrong, but...
Well, I mean, I don't... the toppers that I use, I usually don't pick ones that are massive and obscuring the views just because of that, but
Sure.
not because I'm thinking competitively, just because it makes sense.
I usually have that thought for like 2 seconds, and then I think, no, I'm not good enough for that.
I did find it weird how, like, one of the unlocks in this Rocket Pass, one of the specifically comic book style unlocks, is like the stupid chomper face for the front of the van.
Right, yeah.
And that counts as an antenna, which is interesting. Because it's like they're using like an old slot to do a different effect.
So is that unique to the van?
I don't know. I can't really tell.
Because it's some way up the tree, isn't it?
So it's way up the tree, and I haven't seen anyone using it yet.
That'd be interesting if it isn't, and you could slap it on anything.
If it is some kind of, because it is just classed as an antenna.
Because then that is a new kind of decoration.
Because also, I guess, like, there's never been a case with antennas or wheels that have been locked to cars before, unlike skins, which can be car logged. So who knows how that'll actually work? Because obviously, when it's on the van, the eyes line up with the headlights, and then the mouth lines up with the grille.
Unless someone's had to go
would that even work on any of the other cars?
Well, unless someone's had to go and do positional tagging work on every single one of
all of the bodyworks.
Yeah,
that would suck for them.
It's probably not that difficult.
Well, maybe. And then I guess the only other thing that I played very briefly was I reinstalled 7 Days to Die because I haven't played that in quite a long time. And it's continued to somehow be updates in alpha because this is one of those classic never-ending early access games. But I went back to that to try and go back in to see how things are nowadays. But then I didn't get very far, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember why the start of this game kind of sucks." Because you have to get started in that game, you have to make decisions that are annoyingly permanent, and it's like I didn't remember what skills were important, so it's like I don't want to spend these skill points, but if I'm not spending the skill points, then I'm just going to suck forever. And then which one of these houses do I choose to settle in? And do I even choose to settle in a house, or do I try and build a bunker from scratch? What is the best defensive strategy nowadays? How has the enemy AI changed? It's a lot of stuff that you either have to spend a long time experimenting with in the game or have someone tell you.
Right.
But I think that in general, from what I understand from the last 2 times I've played it, which have all been through all these updates, they've made it sort of easier nowadays because, well, I think it was the update quite a long time ago when they introduced basically missions, the way you could go to the traders and they would give you specific objectives. Because once you have a system to basically give you rewards directly rather than having to scavenge everything, it's now you have specific goals that are actually you can see ahead of time how difficult it's going to be, and then you'll get specific rewards. Well, not still random rewards, but specific grades of reward, I'd say. So, that's much easier than hunting around forever and hoping that the random dice roll will give you something nice. And also, usually the mission rewards also give you money, which you can then just use to buy whatever you don't get from the mission rewards.
Right, I see.
So yeah, once they introduced the quest, it seems like it's a bit easier to just get stuff. But then obviously that was part of the rebalancing of making certain, AI work better in terms of the defenses, so that the enemies aren't quite as dumb or whatever.
Whoa. Sorry about that. That was probably quite a loud nasal noise that came through there. Yeah.
But yeah, I only played the very start of it again, and I was like, I didn't even get to the first 7 days, the first Horde night or whatever, because I was too indecisive about what house I wanted to fortify, and whether fortifying a house is even a good idea any longer. Because the last time I got a long way into that game was from fortifying a house, but that was like so many versions ago. I think the AI is actually quite distinctly different nowadays.
So have they ended up... Is it one of those cases where they've ended up with a system that's currently pointless, do you think?
I don't know, it's hard to tell, because like I hear from people who've got into the later game parts of the modern versions, it's like it's actually possible to not even fortify at all, and just basically, once you get vehicles like a car or a bike, you just ride around during the Horde night and the zombies can't catch up to you, provided you keep moving. Which, I mean, I guess kind of makes sense, but...
That's quite funny. So do these zombies not like the day, so you can just, like, survive until?
Well, like, the way it normally works is, like, during the day, they're, like, regular shambling zombies. During the night, I don't think it's every night. I think it's only the Horde nights that are distinctly different. But during the night, they can sort of sense you better. And I think occasionally it spawns more, like... They're like mini hordes, but they're not really aggressive. So they just sort of wander past, usually. But then on the 7th day, during the Horde night, then the zombies get fast. So that's when you have the base defense. And they also know where you are, always, rather than being... Because normally you can stealth during the night. Like, if you don't make any noise and you move around slowly or whatever, you can basically still even avoid them, even though they are more sensitive. But on the Horde night, all the zombies just automatically know where you are, and they just come straight at you. So that's when you normally have your fortifications that you've built up during the 7 days, and then you try and survive that one big night every 7 days. But yeah, like I say, apparently it's possible to just not bother and just drive around in a car.
That's pretty funny. Put yourself on an island somewhere and just sort of stand there going, hooey.
Well, the island thing is like the other problem, because like the zombies will just walk along the bottom of water.
Great.
So like an island doesn't quite work. But then once you're talking about how you're defending a location, it gets into all like, it's always been about how the AI functions and how you can exploit it. Like last time I tried playing it with someone else, we thought, oh, let's build like a platform on top of like the arch of an ironwork bridge, because then there'll only be like these really thin walkways essentially going up to our base that will be easy to defend. So we thought that would be a good idea, but because of the way the zombie pathfinding works, they like, if they were coming from the right direction at the ends of the bridges, they would walk up the little thin path and then run into whatever our traps and us, and that was fine. But if they were pathing from like certain angles, they'd run into the like structure of the bridge first, and then the zombies would just try and beat their way through it, because that's how the AI works. So the whole bridge just ended up collapsing.
Oh.
So it's like, you have to like weirdly consider how dumb the AI is, basically. Where it's like, if they can path to you, they'll path to you. But sometimes if they come in at certain angles, if they meet a like concave corner or whatever, so their pathing gets stuck, they automatically start beating up the blocks around them, and then that can cause stuff to get destroyed. So I think that was why that one time where I did have that fortified house that worked, because I dug a moat around it, but it was like a perfectly square moat, so there was no convex corners for them to get stuck on. Because then another time when I tried to fortify a house but didn't build a moat, there was like, it had a porch thing at the back that had a concave corner, and as soon as one zombie got stuck there, it just made a hole in the wall, and then I died. So it's like, you have to be annoyingly aware of how stupid the zombie AI is.
That does seem pretty annoying. It's just like, yeah, it's just, I'm not sure. There's like, I don't know, in real life, in real life zombies would you expect them to randomly just sort of swing around if they were like, I don't know where to go, I know he's around here somewhere, or would they just try and run off in another direction?
Well, yeah, I mean, that is the sort of, they do show that in, like, films or whatever, where the zombies are just like, they're all around the building and they're beating on the windows, and it's like, well, I mean, I guess that's sort of the representation of that, right? They're just trying to get to you. They know you're inside the building, but they don't really have any concept of how buildings work, so they're just trying to beat their way in.
They just keep going forwards, basically.
Yeah.
Just keep pushing W.
Because technically, there is one way that the 7 Days to Die zombies are smarter, is that they know what doors are. So if there's a door that they can path to, they will usually try and get to the door to beat their way in there, rather than just going through the walls. But yeah, I didn't really play that much, and I sort of looked into it, but then I was like, this would still, even at this point where it's theoretically easier to get going, I'd still actually prefer this to play this in multiplayer still, even if it's only one other person. So maybe I'll convince someone to come back into that, but I don't know. We've got other things that we're still waiting to get back to in multiplayer, like Satisfactory and possibly even Factorio at this point. And that's pretty much all I played.
Any word on when Satisfactory is no longer early access? Speaking of games that are in early access,
there is that. There is that theory of still waiting for the big release to go in there for real. There was one other thing that I did play, though. I played a random amount of Mario Odyssey again.
Woohoo! Sweet.
Because I guess I played. I think I talked about it on the podcast the last time I was playing it, which was relatively recently. I played up to the ending, the regular ending. So I just opened up that save file again and started going into, like, let's get through all the other 500 moves that are after the ending.
Right.
Go back to the first level and actually be able to do everything there now and all that stuff. So I did some of that. I very specifically didn't go to the dark side or the darker side, even though those unlocked. I was like, yeah, I know what's there. I'm not gonna. Don't want to do that right now, especially because I haven't played for a while and therefore all my skills have degraded again.
Yeah, I think it was when I was trying to attempt some of those that I just sort of put the game down. Because it's just like, oh, this is how hard it's going to be? Well, maybe I don't want that.
And I did do the silly thing that you can do immediately after the end of the story, where it dumps you into the Mushroom Kingdom.
Right, like, yeah.
How many moons can you get in one single go to dump into the Odyssey just from the Mushroom Kingdom? Because it's like, you get all those ones, you can get the stupid ones from Toadette where she just gives you, like, achievement awards, basically. And you just get a shit ton of those as soon as you go there. And then the whole of the Mushroom Kingdom moons. And then there's, like I guess the boss fight, the re-fighting the bosses do count as Mushroom Kingdom moons, even though they're sort of in different worlds. But yeah, you can get like 70 odd moons and just dump them all in at once, and then that sequence where they all go into the top of the Odyssey takes forever.
Right, because there's just so many.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that it actually counts them all individually. And it's not just a sequence.
Wait, there's a boss rush in Mushroom Kingdom?
No, you refight all of the bosses in, like, hard mode. Because you go into those little tower buildings and you jump into, like, the paintings like it's Mario 64.
Oh. I don't think I did that. I thought they were extra boss fights on, like, the darker side stuff. Like, or they were positioned there, but...
The extra boss fights on the dark side are like refighting the rabbits, though, right? Aren't they?
Yeah.
Because you have to do all 4 of them and the stupid fat one. Do all of them again in hard mode, essentially. But yeah, all the regular bosses have basically that, but in the Mushroom Kingdom via the Mario 64 reference.
Yeah, maybe I didn't. Maybe I did or didn't. I can't remember that at all. Anyway.
And then I weirdly had 9,999 coins, so I was like, well, I guess I'll just buy one of these super expensive outfits. I'll be a skeleton. Except now there's more than one of those super expensive outfits because of the, like, patches that they did. There's several outfits that are like 9,999 or like 5,000 coins. It's just like, that's ridiculous. I mean, the first time I played it, I had to grind to get the 9,099 to buy the skeleton outfit after I'd bought everything else. But now there's multiple times that, and I was just like, I'm never going to complete it like that again.
But maybe you shall.
Well, if I was going to do that again, I'd load up my old save file where I'd already done all the ones that were in the base game.
Yeah.
And then grind for coins.
And then see if you've still got the pictures for the, was it the stupid photo challenges? Or the ones with the clues, the visual clues?
It turns out I had actually deleted all those pictures from the last time, but I basically started taking those pictures again as I went through the game this time.
Because didn't they have some of those that were actually, like, they posted them on the... Was it the news feed? And they weren't in the game? Well,
originally they posted some of them in the news feed, but they're still the same ones from the game.
Right.
But then they later on, when they were still patching it, posted new ones, but they don't point to a moon, they point to like a Luigi sprite that gives you extra coins.
Oh, right, okay.
So they're actually different and not necessary. And I wish it gave me more coins, because then that would be more worthwhile for grinding coins. There's really not really many good ways to grind coins in that game.
What about the Luigi hide and seek game, or whatever it is, or the balloon game, whatever
That's
that is?
Far too much effort for the reward. It's like, especially because it's like, those hide and seek things are community based or whatever. People upload their stupid shit, and then it's sort of like that. If you're going to try and do the higher level ones, you're going to find the ridiculous balloons where it's like, how the fuck did you even get there, or how the fuck did you get there this quickly? Because you have a time limit.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah, because that's really the meta game of the high level of those Luigi balloon finding things, is just like getting really far away from where you start because of the time limit.
Yeah.
Use your fancy Mario movement.
Does it show you where it is then in those?
I don't remember, because I haven't done one in like forever, because I didn't care about that system. I was like, this is stupid and I'm not going to do it.
I agree.
But yeah, that's Mario Odyssey still.
Woohoo!
And that's everything. Didn't even get to play Hyrule Warriors because of the plague.
Yeah, because of the plague. No. I know.
Oh well.
I held back from playing any more of it. As tempting as it was.
What did you play during your plaguey state? Playing.
Wow. Well, I was away for a week, so I didn't play a lot of games during that one. But somehow I've ended up with quite a few things to talk about. Because I tried playing Rocket League on the Switch.
Oh, okay.
Because you can now, and you can like hook it up to so your Epic account is all linked and all that. So it's like it still counts. Yeah, that was not a great experience. Like they need to, even though I was playing it in performance mode, because it has a performance and quality mode toggle on the Switch. It's like, boy, that performance mode does not perform. The frame rate is all over the place, and it's just a really difficult way to play that game. It's like, yeah, I'm spoiled and I'm used to my super high frame rate on my PC through my crazy monitor, and there's kind of no way back from that. It's a difficult thing to unlearn. But oh boy, yeah, it's ropey on Switch. It just is. It's like there's a way, I think, if you put it in quality mode, it caps it at 30, so that's possibly slightly better, because at least that's consistent, or more consistent. But yes, I'm not sure. Like, maybe in a pinch, if I'm playing. The only reason I had it on my Switch, right, is because at some point we were going to play it like locally, or set up a game with the Cambridge crew, like, so they play on a PlayStation and I could play on the Switch, and then we'd have enough to actually get a proper game going, like a proper 3-on-3. And it's like, this could actually be cool. We didn't end up doing that because it took us forever. The internet got in the way and we couldn't download it all in time. But I left it running, and so I've ended up with it on the Switch. So I thought I'd have a go at it while I had the Switch with me. Yeah, no. Just no. They need to pare it back a lot more. Make it run. Doesn't have to look good. It's Rocket League, right? It just needs to play well.
Just do a release that runs at 60 regardless of the
yeah,
takes.
Dial it right back. Give me those potato textures.
Yeah, potato is up.
Run it as lower resolution as you can. Don't care. So there was that. I finished Immortals, or was it Immortals Phoenix Rising? That's the full name of the game.
Oh yes.
So I got around to finishing that because I basically just started mainlining it. I got fed up with the world in the end. It just, like I said before, it just wasn't quite interesting enough to hold out for the size of that world. It's like it just wasn't. It's just not interesting enough. The puzzles always had there came a point where all the puzzles were kind of the same. All the things you were doing didn't feel particularly innovative anymore or interesting. And I possibly made that worse for myself by having you basically can unlock a power where you can cheese some of the put block on weight switch puzzles, because you could just summon a weight.
All right, and it just stick it straight on the block.
And it's like, well, instead of trying to find where this other block is, I'm just going to summon my weight and put it here and skip a puzzle. It's like, great, that's helpful. And some of the I ended up not doing the vaults entirely. There came a point where I just, the shrines, effectively. I ended up just unless the game's forcing me to do one, I'm just not going to do it. Because I started coming across some real stinkers, some really annoying and genuinely, I think, poorly designed stuff that just doesn't quite function right. Was the main problem. Some stuff where it would spawn. Oh, there's a rock here, and the puzzle is to turn this switch on, and it turns the wind on to blow this in a certain direction. Except because physics, it's the wind doesn't blow it in the direction that it was intended to, so the thing gets stuck. And then it's well, now what the hell do I do? Well, I can get in there myself, and I can try and unwedge this thing, and then I can get back out, and then I can flip the switch again, and hope that the physics works this time. And it's just it just got kind of crap.
It got crap. Yeah.
And my patience ran out with those, so I stopped bothering. And I think, as I sort of said before last time, that I kind of feel like that's potentially how the writers felt as well.
Right, they actually
they kind of just started getting a bit bored and kind of just sort of it definitely got a bit ropier as it went on. Sure, there was definitely there was a couple of twists in the end game that I'm not sure. That I wouldn't say I saw coming. They were kind of not consequential in any way. They weren't oh snap kind of moments. They were just all right. That's a thing.
Yeah. All right.
So that's what happened. Okay, fine. And I found the kind of the last few encounters pretty underwhelming. Maybe because I was quite strong at that point, and they weren't all that tough, but they weren't all that interesting either. And there are some moments between you and your sort of phoenix bird friend that seem totally unearned. It's oh my god, the phoenix is dead. Oh my god, the phoenix is alive. And it's and the language used is I love you kind of level. And you're
oh man.
And as a player, I'm just don't care. You didn't earn that level of weight or that level of compassion towards your random bird friend. It doesn't really work. It's fine, but it doesn't really work. I think their idea ended up better than their execution. Another one of those.
Okay.
And a lot of their ideas were stolen anyway. So
yeah. Just gotta wait for that Breath of the Wild sequel, see if that actually comes out this year.
Yeah. So that means I'm probably done with that, and we'll never play it again. That's probably true. I came across sounding again a little bit harsher than I intended.
But it's true.
It's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, this one I even have on disc, but it's still probably true. So 2 new games or games I've not played before have been on my roster. So let's start with, I'm going to choose Team Sonic Racing. You heard me.
Transformed.
No.
No.
No. Not Sega and Sonic
Kept the
All-Stars.
same.
just Sonic. They've taken the All-Stars have gone away. They've had a falling out. Sonic said some things. We don't want to talk about it.
Purely Sonic.
Just Sonic. Team Sonic Racing.
Can you play Shadow?
Well, it's not just Team Sonic, though.
Well, no, not just Team Sonic. There's I don't even know what the other teams are called. They don't actually. I'm not sure they give the teams names particularly. They're just
Really?
they're just
They bring back
they're just the
classics.
teams.
Team Dark.
I mean, they kind of already fill that pattern. Yeah, there's like Team Sonic, Team Rose, Team Dark, I suppose ish. Team Eggman.
No.
But they're not really called. I don't think they're called those. They're just that's the team. Like they're the other teams. It's another kart racer, following on from the surprisingly good Sega and Sonic All-Stars Racing, Transformed. Actually, that first one was all right as well, but Transformed's the good one. This is less so. I mean, I think we knew it. I think we had that vibe, but it's less good. Which is slightly disappointing because it's another Sumo Digital joint. It's they've made all 3 of these now, and something's definitely been lost here. And I don't know if that's just because it's lost the other Sega-ness. So like it's definitely that feeling of variety that a kart racer should have is probably quite diminished by the fact that it's just Sonic. I mean that it's easy to see that's a step backwards. Like why would you do that? Why would you do that? And I just don't think it plays very well, kind of at all. Like it's very boring for a kart racer. And you know what you're getting into with a kart racer. They all kind of play the same, but like this is so cookie cutter and pretty uninteresting. And I think kind of broken in spots. So I'm trying to struggle how to explain this. So like the wrinkle here is that they're trying to encourage team play. So you're ranked not only on where you position, you're ranked on where the 2 other people on your team position as well, and it's your combined score that matters. And so there are extra mechanics thrown in to be like to help your team along. So like the person who's ahead of your team leaves a trail behind them, and if the other players drive in that, they gain a little bit of extra speed. Great. That's like that seems like a fairly sensible way of actually managing rubber banding. But like for the members of your own team, it's like great. Actually, that seems like a sensible idea, and that's actually the mechanic that comes off most successfully. The other thing they do is basically you have the ability to send items to your teammates. You basically just push a button to say, I don't want this. And then one of your teammates will pick it up and they might get a slightly more powerful version of the thing you sent. I mean, that's fine in theory, but it's not very interesting to you as the player, right? Because it's just a way of getting rid of your items. Not that interesting. And the only other thing that really exists in team mechanics is like if you crash, like or get hit by something, and so you end up in that sort of spinny state that all kart racers have. Like if someone zings you, if one of your teammates zings you while you're in this kind of state, you get a sling boost, and that will it basically just gives you a little extra, like a turbo, basically to get you going again.
Oh, that's quite nice.
That's quite nice, but it's like. It's totally at the mercy of where your teammates are at the time, right? So if you're in what I find is the most common situation where I am winning and my teammates are last, I'm never going to get a sling boost. I'm never going to see that. The teammates are too far away. Yeah, I am playing it in hard mode because the regular difficulty is the other end of the spectrum. It's far too easy. But playing it in hard mode, like basically that takes the difficulty away from me and puts it entirely on how well my AI compatriots are doing. which is, of course, random, and thus
of course.
sucks.
Right. It has nothing to do with what you're doing.
You can play through a whole Grand Prix and you'd be doing well, but like every race, your teammates will be doing poorly. And it's like, so like, and obviously the game thing is like, oh, you should be supporting your team then. You should be like, okay, how do I do that? I'm miles ahead of them. I'm leaving the slipstream trail behind me. I'm sending every item away from me.
Yeah, to their help. Yeah.
Like, what else do you want me to do? I'm using your mechanics. Like, clearly there's not enough mechanics here to make this work. And I think the problems go like deeper than that. So there is a mode you can play where you can turn off the team stuff and just play it as a kart racer, regular.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and I think even there, like, think the balance is busted. Like, so it does the kart racery thing where if you're behind, in theory, you get more powerful weapons, right? You'll get the you'll get the blue shell or some equivalent of it, but that happens very infrequently, like not Mario Kart level frequently, but like much, much less. So if you're at the back, your ability to catch up is pretty slim, honestly. Like, you don't have many options. It's the game won't help you very much at all on that front, which is kind of the antithesis of what a kart racer should be. But then equally, the rubber banding of the AI seems to mean that they are terrible for the first 2 laps, and then on the 3rd lap they just suddenly get super powered. And so I play as a version of Sonic, and you can there are like car loadouts and things you can do, so you can change some of the stats of your cars. And I've got basically maximum top speed. I've given Sonic all of the gear that makes his top speed faster than anyone else. And then people drive past me in a straight line, and I'm like, how did you do that?
This must be Sonic.
Like, yeah. Like, okay, yes, they could have had a boost power-up, and they just casually boost past me, but I'm pretty certain I've seen it happen where they're just not doing that, and I don't understand. The rubber banding seems busted. It's not very good.
There we go. Fair.
It's like, it's so surprising, given how much fun I got from the last 2 games, especially Transformed. For them to sort of basically balls up the cool mechanics of a kart racer, it's kind of unforgivable. And right, I've played this in multiplayer with the Cambridge crew because they all got PS Plus as well, so they all picked it up. So we actually played some online stuff. And it's like, okay, the online performance was okay. There were moments where the game seemed to be doing something with my car that I wasn't. Like, okay, the stunt system's back, so if you're in the air and you push the right stick, your car will flip in the direction you push. Each time you flip, earning you a little bit of more boost for when you land. Great, that system's fine. That's been in the previous games. Except for when I played it in multiplayer and the car would flip itself. And it would be like, I didn't tell you to do that. And then it would flip itself and causing me to crash if you don't complete the flip. And it's like, well, great. And I haven't had that happen in single player, so I assume it's a netcode problem. And I've definitely had moments where the car didn't steer quite as responsively as I wanted. So, network play, got some problems. But the worst part is like at the end of the race, like they do the results screen thing, and there's a lot of results screen things because what it decides to do at the end of any race, whether you're playing single player or multiplayer, it'll go, okay, this is what you did. Here you get a score for some reason, which seems completely pointless, but it translates somewhat into a number of fake currency you get that you can then spend on a gacha machine to unlock extra customization options, like either the good stuff for changing the car loadouts or pointless stuff like vinyls and horns. So that's fine. Normally you'd skip through that. Then it gives you the results of the race, and it's like, fine, yep, skip through that. And then it would give you the results of like where the team's positioned in the race. Yep, fine, skip through that. In multiplayer, none of that is skippable. So it sits there and like for ages counting this thing up, like being like, okay, here's your score. Okay, here's who actually won the race. Okay, here's the team scores. Let me total those up in a graphical way. And then in multiplayer adds an extra step to be like, oh, here's the accolades that I want to give all the players. Do you want to vote on those accolades? Well, you're gonna. And it's like, it just takes forever. And it's completely unskippable. Whether you're playing in a private lobby or not, like which we were. And it's just ridiculously poorly designed.
It just sounds super tedious.
Yeah. And I don't think the tracks are all that. I've had performance issues in places, which is, again, pretty unforgivable for a not amazing looking PS4 Pro game. The music's a bit off. It's just... it's not their A game. You've done better. You go back to that. So I probably won't be playing much more of this.
So who made this? Was it
Sumo
people?
Digital.
Oh, right.
Who, like I said before, they are the team that made the previous two Sonic kart races. And it's just like, they've dropped the ball completely on this one.
Bizarre.
Which is then making me think maybe I actually need to go back and play Transformed, and maybe it wasn't as good as I thought. But
I'm sure for the time it was definitely, and maybe it was just because no one had made a good kart racer for ages except for Mario Kart.
Except Mario Kart.
At the time.
But yeah, I think even put it next to Mario Kart, and it's like, it's not Mario Kart, but like the transformed part of it gave it some variety, and it wasn't so... And, the Sega nostalgia was high, and... Because it's not just Sonic. They were pulling from quite a lot of interesting sources, and the track design was fun with them changing every lap because things blew up, and it was just a really well put together game. And it was just generally fun to play. I didn't feel like I had these problems with the power up balance or the rubber banding, or having to wait for a million different dialogues. And it has a story mode, I should mention as well, which is as dumb as it sounds.
Naturally.
And it's like, how do we explain these people coming from the other dimensions of Sonic getting an invite to the race? Because Silver and Blaze are here, because of course they are. They had to fill out the roster somehow. And they were like, no, we just did. We just sent an invite cross-dimensionally, or it was posted 200 years in advance. And so now we're here for a race, because we can do that for some reason. Yeah, all right.
I mean, it explains it slightly better than Forces explains anything, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was unnecessary. Like, is what I guess what I'm trying to say. It's like, you don't need to explain why they're here. Just say they're here.
Well, I mean, if you're going to have a story, you do have to explain some things, I guess.
There's a mysterious Tanuki. That's all you need to know. The races are run by a mysterious Tanuki.
I mean, that's enough explanation for anything weird going on, isn't it? You don't need to worry about. It's just magic powers.
Yeah, it probably is. Wouldn't be the first time Sonic's done magic in some way.
Yeah. Talking about Mario Kart actually did remind me of, I guess, sort of news. The first pack of the Mario Kart DLC tracks have come out. Apparently they're not great.
Oh, really?
Really? Oh, I'd heard it. They were right.
Well, they're all right, but people... Part of the problem is that 200cc exists now, so they all feel really short because they're they were never designed for 200cc.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, naturally, that was just going to happen. That's fine.
And then the other problem, apparently, which I've seen various comparison screenshots of, is that they just didn't do a very good job of making them. They're way lower detail than the actual courses. And they just have like much worse texturing and all the shadows are bad.
Is that true of the ones they even? Because I heard that people were worried about that because they were the ones that they were bringing from like Mario Kart Tour, right?
Yeah.
The ones that had been done for the mobile, they basically just lifted those versions and put that in here, and it's like, okay, that's probably an understandable complaint. But is that true of the ones because have they released any of the N64 ones, like the redone?
Yeah, they've Choco Mountain.
Oh, Choco Mountain's come out, has it? So has that got the same problem?
Well, from what I've seen, it's like the ones from Tor look average, and then like Choco Mountain, I would say looks fine, but that I mean, I guess there's not really much to do with Choco Mountain. It's like brown rock
brown.
textures.
Yeah. There's nothing but brown.
But then when they've got like Toad Circuit, I think is the one that everyone agrees looks way the worst, because like it seems completely random, because they've just not. It's like they haven't even used the assets that were already in the game. Like in Toad Circuit, the grass is just like a blank green texture, and like the track margins, like the red and white rumble strips or whatever, those are all just untextured as well. Whereas in the, like other circuit games from circuit levels from Mario Kart 8, they have like proper grass texture and proper red and white rumble strip textures that they just for some reason haven't even used.
Weird, isn't it? Well, I think it's safe to say at this point it's probably not the same. Well, I mean, maybe it is. I mean, it's one of the It's one of the,
I think
Nintendo R&D or whatever they call them, isn't it? One of their internal teams. But like,
well, I think people are saying that like it may be Bandai Namco doing the work.
Oh, really? Yeah, because Nintendo do work with them quite a bit, because they Bandai Namco do the arcade machines.
Yeah, and obviously helped with Smash Brothers and whatnot.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just like it seems like a weird mismatch of just like they for some reason haven't. It's not like the assets weren't there; they could use them. And then like in certain cases, there's even between different levels in the DLC, there's assets that are essentially the same, except one of them is just worse for no apparent reason. Like there's this specific bush that's in two different levels that is basically the same bush. It's just like a green mound with like like purple and white flowers on it. But in one of the levels, it's just like an untextured blob, and in the other one, it has like proper foliage textures on it for no apparent reason.
Weird. I mean, are they
like you could
like
understand if they were trying to make a style choice, but I don't think they are. It's like they're just they all in general look vaguely Mario Kart styled esque, but like randomly some are better than others. And then of course there's things that there's more like legitimate like things that people don't like about how they've changed the track designs, of course, but that's nothing to do with the quality. That's just how they've changed. That's how they've updated the actual track layouts or whatever.
I mean, there's bound to be some changes, right? But maybe, I mean, or is there? In the case of some of them, like even as far back as Choco Mountain, you could probably make them work without too much change, right? Like,
yeah, like the main ones that are apparently really annoying as well. The main one that a lot of people are pissed off about, of course, is Coconut Mall. The cars in the parking lot don't move any longer.
Oh wait, really? Oh, weird. I mean, I think there was a variant of Coconut Mall where they didn't move. Like maybe that might have been time trial mode or something.
Yeah, I think time trial was like where they got rid of the random elements or whatever. But yeah, it's just like they just sit there now, and it's just like that just seems like really unnecessary random change.
Yeah.
And also another thing people are complaining about, I guess, is that literally none of the tracks in the DLC use anti-grav at all.
Oh, okay. So they're not even following the whole Mario Kart 8. Like, well, I suppose that makes, because are any of these tracks new? They're all just.
I mean, they're all remakes of old levels, yes. But,
yeah.
I mean, some of them have had to be, fully remade, like Choco Mountain and like the ones from the GBA game.
Sure, I think I'm less worried about that. I mean, maybe the GBA one they could have funked up, because they did that with like, was it at least one of the SNES tracks they moved to Mario Kart 8. They added a somewhat pointless angled bit.
Yeah. I mean, it was always going to be like that if they were going to do it. It was going to be like, here's a pointless angled part. Although, actually, the GBA track that they've put in is one of the, like, floating sky cloud levels.
Right, yeah.
Which already has, in this design, already has some quite steeply banked bits, but they're just not in anti-gravity mode for no apparent reason. It's like, it probably would have been quite easy to just, like, put the anti-gravity trigger on there and angle it up a little bit more.
I mean, why are people really that worried about that? That's the thing.
Yeah, that's like.
I mean,
I guess it's the argument of like, why is this still Mario Kart 8 if you're not even going to use the Mario Kart 8 mechanics?
Yeah, to a point. But even the anti-grav stuff wasn't particularly new,
No.
right? But like all it really added was it's like, hey, if you collide with someone, you both get a mini boost instead.
Yeah.
That's kind of it.
They have at least in these remade tracks like shoved in some ramps to get some gliding in. Like
Right,
even Choco
okay.
Mountain has a bit where in this version of Choco Mountain there's just a bit where it's like, here's where a bridge would have been, except it's been destroyed, and therefore gliding section. It's like, okay, I mean, fair enough. You found a way to work that in at least.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I'm not complaining about that.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
From
it does
the
seem
looks of
odd.
the graphics, it does seem a bit weird and slightly disappointing.
Yeah.
Especially given what a great job they did when Mario Kart 8 was originally out, and the DLC they added to it. All of that was top notch.
Yeah.
Same quality as the rest of the game.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, we saw some of this coming, so I'm less disappointed about the ones from Tor, for instance, that they brought in.
Yeah.
We saw that coming. But yeah, the rest of it seems kind of mad. I mean, maybe they've just bitten off more than they can chew. Like, the number of tracks they're trying to bring in.
Yeah, maybe it was like they aimed too high and ended up rushing it.
But it is weird. Like, as I say, the stuff you said about the assets already being there. It's like, how hard can it be to just get the paintbrush tool out or whatever they use in their things and just be like, paint this rumble strip the same way? Like,
yeah, exactly. Just
I'm simplifying it a lot, but still, like, yeah, they have those assets.
So anyway, that's some extra bit of Mario Kart news I remembered eventually.
Yeah, no, interesting. And well, I don't feel quite so bad about not being in being America 8 Deluxe owner now, but I'm still a little bitter.
Yeah.
All these years and you have managed to. Oh, it's because you do.
Because I own 8, not 8 Deluxe.
Yeah, you own 8 on the Wii U.
The Wii U. Ooh, wee, ooh.
Ooh,
Killer tofu.
Killer tofu.
I got one more game.
What's that?
Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
What? Why?
What a disappointment.
What a disappointment. What were you expecting?
Square.
Yeah, it's Square.
Disappointment.
It is a Square. It is a Square game. It's a disappointing selling game.
Okay, it's hip to be Square.
Hey, I was just surprised this thing turned up on Game Pass. Like, because it's not been out that long, and also it's a Square game. It's like, I don't know, Square definitely
Well,
has
maybe
stuff
that's
on.
why.
Yeah, I mean, Square definitely
Maybe
has
they
stuff
were like,
on
it
Game
sold-
Pass, but
Maybe they were like, it sold so badly, we can make more money by making Microsoft pay us to give it away for free.
I mean, probably that is probably the thinking. But let's not forget, this game actually got a Game Award for narrative. It's not like this
People
thing.
seem to like it
Yeah,
more than you would think for a weird kind of like a movie spin-off, but like in that weird remake way.
yeah. It's not a movie spin-off. It's a Marvel's game. So, like, in the same way that Marvel's Spider-Man is its own thing, this is its own thing. So it doesn't follow the same rules as the MCU. And
But it's also not integrated with the Marvel Spider-Man game in any way.
I mean, probably
it's not.
not.
Like a
no, it's not. There's. I mean, there is a brief Spider-Man joke in there, but it's like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a full on like same universe thing. I quite like this. Like, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the most polished thing I've played in the world. Like, and perhaps I think the start could rub you the wrong way quite easily, because a lot of the dialogue in this is, let's say, the wrong end of subtle, or the absent end of subtle.
The missing end of subtle.
It's the absent end of subtle.
What the? Okay.
Okay, it's got that thing where sort of everyone like shouts at each other, even though they're like standing right next to each other, kind of thing. Especially Rocket, who has this problem the entire time.
Rocket Raccoon.
Rocket Raccoon, yeah. They just have a tendency where it's like they just shout at each other. That's just what they do. They don't have indoor voices. They just shout. And I think maybe I'm getting used to that, but at least at the start of the game, it came across as like really kind of odd and a bit grating. And it's like, why? Just why? You guys are right next to each other. You don't have to be at each other's throats the entire time. Doesn't make a huge amount of sense. And it's what kind of coupled with like, when I mean like it's not as polished as I think, like I don't think the dialogue or the writing of the dialogue is poor per se, but I think how the game delivers that dialogue can be kind of odd. And my mind is drawn a little bit towards Sonic Adventure 2. And it's not nearly as bad as Sonic Adventure 2's legendary talking over each other timing.
Oh, no.
But there are moments where it feels like this is not how this was intended, right? Like
Right.
The timing of this feels wrong. Or if it was intended, was this actually written by someone who's not an English speaker, and then it was translated into, which is the Sonic Adventure problem. It's kind of weird at times. Like characters reacting to things before the line has landed and things like that. There's one line in particular where someone's explaining the situation. They say, "Oh, it's like this," and they make a joke about how Rocket doesn't scoff; he says "scoff."
Scoff.
Yeah. so in the middle of this, like, but while the problem's being explained, he just goes "scoff" in the middle of it, and it's like before the thing he should be scoffing at has happened.
Wow.
Like
Too far.
Yeah, there's just little moments like this where like the timing doesn't quite land, and it's the same thing where like if you go for a fight sequence and the fight ends, they're immediately talking normally. Like there's no like pause to be like just let the fight or let the situation breathe a little bit. It's like no, they're straight back into the talking about the next narrative point, and there's no let up. There's no. I think pacing is problematic in the narrative delivery. But that said, I am quite liking where this story goes. Like it's one of those where it's like it seems like a lot of unconnected events at first, and then it starts drawing them together into a bigger picture kind of story, and it's working for me. Like I think it's good. I'm being it's got that hook. I want to see where it goes. I want to see how this finishes. It's like it's hard to stop playing because there's always a little thing nudging you forward to be like, oh hey, I just want to see how this scene resolves, and then it doesn't quite resolve. So you're like, oh well, I'll keep going until this next room, and then several hours have passed. It's good at that. That said, the gameplay itself is actually pretty simplistic. Like it's a good thing it has that narrative hook, and it has that like fishing line stuck in the side of my cheek pulling me through it, because it's like, yeah, the actual game side of it is pretty simple. You're in an area, there may be some small traversal problem to solve. That problem is not very difficult. Move on. Here's some more stuff. Maybe do that again. Maybe have a fight. Fight is basically simple lock on to enemies, hold trigger until they die kind of thing. We're like, okay, let's simplify it a little bit, but it's a lock-on shooter rather than a proper shooter, if that makes sense. It plays. I'm kind of reminded a little bit of Metroid Prime and maybe Recore to a certain extent in terms of like how that feels. You're moving around a locked-on enemy rather than you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're slowly getting more abilities, and you can call upon the abilities of your team, and then you finish the fight, and then you immediately have a conversation about how rubbish that fight was, or something, or how dire the situation is, and then you do another traversal problem. Then you might have a cutscene. That's kind of it. You just go, and it's linear, and it's like just go from here to here. There may be a couple of side things to find on in each area. And I'm finding it incredibly refreshing. Like, because nobody makes games like this anymore.
Right. That's not the thing anymore.
Like, not since maybe Gears 5 might be the last thing I can think of that actually has this structure with this amount of money put behind it. Right?
Kind of straight shooting type thing.
Yeah, it's a straight ass campaign. And I'm digging it. Like you can even like the Sony big hitters of recent years, like God of War might be the closest thing on the Sony side to like a a sort of narrative-driven experience, I suppose, in this way. No, Uncharted's probably closer. Uncharted's are a bit more linear. But, I was about to say, even God of War has, an open-worldy thing where you could possibly have a story point of agency, and then you just go on and faff for tens of hours.
It's a little bit Metroidy, yeah.
Yeah, and this just has none of that, and I'm finding it. I'm kind of loving it. It's a nice feeling to just be pulled along sometimes. I don't need that open world. Yeah. If it's in service to the narrative, and I feel like it's. I mean, it's. I mentioned the word earlier, didn't I? I said agency. It's exactly what it is. It's they are doing what they need to do at that moment in time, and they can't do anything else, and that's fine. It feels great. So yeah, it's a pretty good looking, slightly unpolished, but pretty enjoyable experience.
Good time.
Yeah, it's. I have no concept of how long this thing will end up being. I absolutely have no idea. I think it's longer than you think, in a sort of Uncharted kind of way. Is the impression I'm getting right now. But honestly, I wouldn't mind if it just didn't take that much longer and just ended. I'm probably only halfway through the ability tree at this point. I haven't got all of my gun powers. So yeah, I may be 40 to 50% of the way through it, but I've put quite a bit of time into it already because I keep getting pulled along. It's neat. It's really quite neat.
You wouldn't have played this if it wasn't Game Pass, right?
Oh, probably not. Well, I mean, I was vaguely interested after there was some amount of there's good sentiment around it, and I was surprised by the good sentiment, especially coming off the back of Square's other Marvel ventures.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. The way this game presents itself is kind of like how I thought the Avengers game would present itself. Right? Because you remember when they first announced the Avengers, they were on about, they gave us a story trailer, they gave us a setup, they gave us a little bit of gameplay, and then they introduced us to the voice cast, and that they had Nolan North and Troy Baker and some other big names, and it was oh, okay, you're making a narrative-focused story experience, and then the game comes out and it's nothing fucking like that. And it's a real disappointment. And it's and then somehow, slightly under the radar, Guardians of the Galaxy is that. It's what they kind of sold Avengers to be. It's a weird one.
But good that they got there.
Yeah.
Just not in the expected way.
I also disagree with Digital Foundry's viewpoint. I recommend playing this game in performance mode if you've got a Series X. Because you get the full 60 FPS experience. Yes, you take a huge resolution cut, it's nowhere near 4K. I think it might be running at 1080, in fact, I think they said.
Oh, God.
But it's the way to play that game, because you're not losing too much in terms of other fidelity playing it that way. But they did patch in a ray tracing mode, which I have toyed with, but yeah, I mean, it runs at 30 the entire time, but it's a very sharp 30, I would explain it. It's how, there's not any motion blur to hide what's going on. It's a very sharp, harsh 30, I would say. There's no real problem with 30, but I think this game is fast enough that 30 frames does feel like a step back. And I honestly don't, even though the ray tracing is there, and it's yeah, fine, I can sort of see it. I don't think it makes enough of a difference to this game's visuals to warrant it. You might as well use the ray tracing mode over quality mode, because that's there still, because it patched in ray tracing late. They gave it a quality mode and a performance mode at launch, and then patched in a ray tracing extra mode after the fact. It's you might as well use the ray tracing mode over quality if you've got the option, but I wouldn't. I would put it in performance mode and enjoy those frames.
Gotta get those frames.
Get those frames. I think it just plays better, as most things will with more frames. But
it's amazing. It's amazing how all those Halo games were at 30, isn't it? No one minded.
We don't really know what you're missing, right? Until someone...
No, I suppose that's true.
Was it? I mean, what was it? It was only until Halo 5 that we kind of knew. And it's oh, yeah, this feels pretty good.
It's not like we weren't playing Counter-Strike at 60 or whatever.
No. But the pace of Halo, it didn't
Yeah.
lose much, I
Yeah.
guess. But Halo's got faster over the years, so it's
That's true.
the extra frames are nice. Don't go back. Let's be
Cool. Guardians of the Galaxy.
nice little surprise.
Hmm.
Well, it was a nice pick-me-up after Team Sonic Racing.
Was such a disappointment.
It's such a disappointment.
Shame. Cool. Well,
is that a podcast?
Pretty much. I mean, I've just been playing Zelda, and we already talked about that before, so there's nothing new, except those shrines are worth finding, unlike
Yes.
the vaults.
Yes, they're definitely
They're
much more
worth-
interesting.
They're worth going up a freezing mountain with oppressive sounding music, and then melting a whole bunch of giant ice cubes just to get in there.
Yeah, here's hoping they can carry on that innovation. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, who knows? Who knows? I mean,
Maybe they won't even have shrines.
It's not as if Zelda was from a brand new series. I mean, Breath of the Wild was from a long tradition, and it still managed to innovate. So I'm sure it's possible. And you look at Ocarina and then Majora's Mask, you can see what they do.
Sure.
Within the same breath, pretty much. So yeah, we shall see.
There will be a strict calendar on which everything runs, and you've got to dingo your way around.
That would be pretty cool to bring back that mechanic and piss everyone off.
Dingo. Can't wait for the dingo. Yeah.
Specifically that. Also, good news, everyone. The Big Tasty is back at McDonald's.
Good news, everyone.
It's only been multiple years since it's been back.
People are like, boycott McDonald's, they're still trading in Russia. And they're like, quick, shut down in Russia and bring back the Big Tasty.
Bring back the best burger you do.
That'll sort out the problem. We're losing $50 million a day or something by shutting in Russia, I think.
I mean, obviously
So
they're using all the extra burger meat that they've got left over from not selling it in Russia to make the Big Tasties.
To make the Big Tasties, yeah.
Do you think they don't have like a similar thing where it's like here, where it's like, oh, it's 100% British beef? There's like, is it not 100% Russian beef?
Probably.
Well, it's probably local to some extent.
Yeah.
But obviously not everything in a burger is going to be local 100% of the time. Especially in countries with seasons.
Yeah, with seasons. And isn't it that Putin's going to revoke all the copyright and all of the Western brands so that people could just knock them off?
Wait, really?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Right?
I mean, yeah, I guess they can. Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
I mean, that's just China, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I guess.
I mean, but not even mainstream China does that, right? It's all that slightly underground, unscrupulous sellers that do that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's much more easy to access than it is here. But yeah, big and tasty. Well, go enjoy while you can, and if you're up for more content, then check out our YouTube channel. While you're eating your Big Tasty, you can enjoy our playthrough of Ocarina.
Yes,
and
might be a minor delay on video content.
Yeah,
just
saying. More videos if the videos record successfully.
They function.
They function. And if the videos fail to function, you can always come back here in a couple of weeks for another Saladcast.
Welcome to season 13, everyone.
Yeah, and enjoy our new music. And we'll catch you then. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.